Hi, I'm Dan.
And I'm James.
And welcome to the Cornwall Property Podcast, where every week we bring you the latest news, hot topics and guidance around the Cornwall property market.
Stay tuned to be informed, inspired and to have any of your property related questions answered by trusted local property professionals.
Hello and welcome back to the Cornwall Property Podcast. We're here, episode 27. I'm Dan.
I'm James.
And we are here with a market update. So again, for those of you who are regular listeners, thank you for joining us once again. And for those this is the first time, please feel free to obviously go through the back catalogue of episodes. But the idea is that we want to inform, educate, inspire you guys to get involved with property with a particular emphasis on the Cornwall property market. There's a big issue in Cornwall currently with the housing crisis where there's not enough properties and far too many people are on that housing registered emergency homes register. So we're just trying to educate and give you guys a bit of an education in terms of like the type of opportunities that are out there that you could jump on, and in doing so could help ease that those numbers really and bring more property to the market for local people. So James, how many people have got back in touch with us recently? We're looking good?
Yeah, very, very good numbers. And every week we're getting more viewers and listeners. So thank you very much for all of your support that you guys give us. Without you, we wouldn't be a podcast. So thank you again for that. And just remember, you can get in contact with us on cornwallpropertypodcast.com on the website. Scroll right down to the bottom of the page there. You can send us a message on that way, or go where many of you do on our social media platforms where you can reach us on Facebook, for example, and send us a message on there. We will always endeavour to get back to you as soon as possible. So thank you again.
Fantastic. And thank you for getting in touch again. So let's kick off. I've got a very topical news story that I wanted to share with you. And it's quite eye-opening, actually. So obviously with the Jubilee coming up, this will come out on Sunday. Jubilee will be the following week. We're just coming into the start of June. So we're celebrating the last 70 years with the Queen on the throne. So I want to just have a little look at the average price when the Queen took the throne.
Oh, this will be interesting.
1952. The Queen Lizzie took over, and believe it or not, the house prices, the average house price back in 1952 was £1,891.
Wow.
£1,891 for the average property price in 1952, 70 years ago. Now, that's mad. That's crazy when you think about that. That's only
post-war, mind.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is only 70 years. Like, it's not massive, really, when you think about it.
No.
That's mad. So when you kind of compare it to now, the average price now is 138 times that. So the average house price currently in the UK is £260,771. 260k. That's the average house price now. Back then, 1,891. So while inflation naturally means that spending power has decreased over time, it's quite sobering to know that the prices have gone so high, and it just shows you how this is such a long-term strategy. If you hold property for a long time, there will be dips, and we all know there's been dips throughout the crisis, and at the time of the dips, everyone thinks the world is ending property-wise. But as long as you're in it for the long game, as we've been trying to drum into the message to anyone interested in investing within property, if you're in it for the long game, you honestly can't really lose out as long as you do it right and you're sensible. But again, we're not financial advisors. We're just giving you our guidance. Always seek professional advice. But guys, this hopefully is quite a nice eye-opener, really. I appreciate 70 years. You're not going to go and hold on to something potentially for 70 years. But within that time, even if you didn't hold it on for the full duration, just part of that duration, that is a massive difference. So, yeah, that's one that really caught my eye. Thoughts on that one?
Incredible, really. Obviously, it was, post-war with that. But when you look at those prices today and how much, if you were to divide that by, the years going on, it's a nice increase, isn't it? And, property is, as you say, it's a long-term game, but it's only going to go one way because a bit like the restaurant industry, people are always going to need to eat. Same with people. We always need somewhere to sleep and live. And we are getting bigger as a population every year. So, yes, it's a good market to be in.
Yeah, and to put that in perspective as well, the monthly household disposable income on the average apparently is £2,600 a month. So it's like you could buy 2 properties a month on that if you were looking at those rates. So it is wow. Mad, absolutely mad. But again, all relative. Obviously, with that, inflation's gone a lot higher. We all feel like we're struggling to pay the bills, aren't we, these days, with the increases where they are.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Just compare it. It is all relative with the time. So again, that was from the property118.com. So again, any interest in these news stories that we share with you, we'll always put the links to the actual articles in the show notes. So please feel free to have a look at those and you can access these and read the full article. So The second story I picked on this week, James, is how the title is buyers who are backing proposals to cut stamp duty. So all of a sudden you think, oh, wow, that's big. That sounds pretty game changing. But when you start reading into the article again, obviously that's a bit of a tagline to grab you in. But there's growing speculation that apparently the government are planning to encourage pensioners to downsize, because obviously the pensioners, it's deemed that the pensioners all hold quite large properties, and there's a lot of people needing these large properties. So they're trying to encourage pensioners to downsize their property, but the way they're trying to do that is offering like a stamp duty tax break. So to move the association that are really welcoming and trying to push this forward are the National Association of Property Buyers, the NAPB, and they're saying that this sort of increase, that this sort of tax relief would actually really help increase the opportunities for more families to take on these larger properties, as it'll encourage more of the pensioners to kind of downsize, because it's not going to be as expensive. So currently a pensioner selling a family home, it's said to the average kind of figures are around like 700,000 to buy.
Wow.
So the article actually the numbers here we've got are currently a pensioner selling a family home at 700,000 to buy a 500,000 property would face £15,000 stamp duty bill, and with other costs such as agent fees, solicitor fees, and things like that, the downward is a massive cost of basically that moving of property, about £30,000. So it is quite a chunk. So by negating that, it could save and encourage quite a lot of hopefully pensioners to downsize their properties. But yeah, again, if you want to read a little bit more in the article, it is in the show notes. This is on the propertyindustryeye.com. And yeah, just quite an interesting way to look at it, really. It's not something I personally have thought too much about, but the more I read into it and the more I think about it, actually, it makes a lot of sense in terms of pensioners generally do have the larger, older properties, because they would have bought it back in the day when it was a lot cheaper. There's a lot of equity in these properties now, but they obviously are. It's quite a big jump and a penalty, I suppose, when you're looking at the stamp duty charges. So it's an interesting one to look at. Again, this is speculation; it's not confirmed, but normally there's no smoke without fire. So yeah, it's just one that caught my eye as well, really.
No, it's a good one there. I think you make a good point about, pensioners sort of downsizing. Obviously, some people like the houses, and if it's somewhere lovely, like on the River Fowl here in Cornwall, it might be hard to get a pensioner to kind of budge with it, but I get that. But also, I'm just putting this out there, it'd be quite nice on an investor side of things. So let's say you're in the flipping game, so you're buying a property, doing it up, then selling it, hopefully back to the Cornish market, creating a home. But if you do that development, let's say within a year, and you pay the stamp duty, it's like, well, had to pay the stamp duty, but should there be something, an incentivization that maybe you can get 50% of that stamp duty back if you sell it within 12 months? Because, that would then maybe incentivize investors to pick up those unencumbered properties that we know there are thousands here in Cornwall that, need to be refurbed and brought back to the Cornish market. That would be quite a nice one in my eyes to see. Don't know what you think about that, Dan?
Yeah, no, for sure. And I'm just trying to, there's some other figures in the article. I don't want to read loads of paragraphs of the article, but there's some interesting figures in there. But yeah, you're right. The idea is we want to keep the property industry moving and keep people moving around, because it is just so needed, and especially with the amount of people that need housing, particularly down here in Cornwall. So if it means we can free up larger properties, more of those families can get in there. There's over like 22,000 people on the emergency housing register currently in Cornwall. So again, we need to get these properties up and running, and if this could help, then fantastic, let's do it. So, James, what have you got for us?
Well, I have got something that's, fairly related to what you were talking about as well, just that big pink elephant in the room, which is the cost of living, which we all know has been soaring. And, we know the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, has been under major pressure recently just to say, look, enough is enough. What are you going to do, or what can we do to try and help families who really just can't afford to live anymore? It's a major problem in this country, and with everything that's been going on with the war in Ukraine and everything, it's not helping situations with the oil prices and all of that. So finally, we have heard some news which is my first headline. Cost of living. Chancellor Rishi Sunak confirms U-turn on windfall tax. The government has U-turned on its opposition to a windfall tax on oil and gas firms, announcing it will introduce a levy to help tackle rising bills, which, to be honest, most people knew was coming. But I've got some more details on the package here. But ministers previously had rejected the idea put forward by opposition parties that would see a one-off charge imposed on the company's record profits. But Chancellor Rishi Sunak said his levy tax extraordinary profits fairly and incentivize investments, which for those big oil firms out there, the companies that are making loads of money, which have been record profits in the last 6 months, as we've been seeing on the news, that, it's time to give something back. So what are they going to do? They're going to tax that on there. So the Chancellor said new tax would raise £5 billion over the course of the next year, allowing the government to help families with the cost of living whilst avoiding having to increase our debt burden further, which I think is fair. So the package itself is a £15 billion package from the government, which includes a £650 one-off payment for 8 million low-income households, so the most vulnerable, which is nice to see, and a change to the £200 loan scheme for energy bills for all homes in the autumn, increasing it to £400 per household without having the need to pay it back, which I know it doesn't sound like huge amounts, but if you're considering every single household in the UK is going to get £400 and the most vulnerable there £600, if you then divide that by the 12 months, it is going to reduce their bills there. So when I was reading the article, which was there on the BBC, it was kind of like Rishi Sunak wants to put this out there, reassess at the end of the year and see how we are. Has it made a difference? Which of course it will. But the main question was, is it enough? Thoughts on that, Dan?
Yeah, when you first saw it, I was like, how much of a contribution is it? One-off £400 payment. It doesn't feel like it's really going to do much, does it? I suppose it all depends on the type of building, your circumstances and what your bills are currently. But if you're already paying £200 a month, times that by 12, take away the 400, you've still got quite a chunky bill. But I'm grateful for any support, grateful for any help. It's better than nothing, of course it is. But it is what it is, really. I've kind of just got the used to, just going to keep getting those smacks in the face from the bills and things like that. It's just going to happen. But appreciate it's not an easy job. Rishi has not got an easy job at all. And whatever he does, he's going to be fighting a losing battle because people are not going to all agree or be happy with him. So, fair play. And it's not going to get us in more debt as a country, then brilliant. That's the main thing, because we're just going to be going backwards and borrowing and borrowing. There's no positive to just keeping borrowing without being able to pay it back or having a way to pay it back. So I think it's some support and it's welcomed. It would be nice if it could be more, but that's always going to be the case, isn't it?
No, absolutely. And another article I also saw on the BBC for Cornwall, which, I'm going to be honest, it's not a particularly nice one, but it is directly linked to, why we sort of set this podcast up to try and help the Cornwall housing crisis. And the headline here was caught up in Cornwall's worsening housing crisis. People caught up in a housing crisis say they are being moved around like farm animals and feel abandoned by the council, which is really sad to hear. Across Cornwall, the number of people in emergency accommodation has risen to 1,500 people, up from 1,000 just a year ago. So, there's a clear indicator there. Things aren't getting any better. More of a reason for investors to come and bring these unencumbered properties back to the market. I feel really passionate about this, as I know you do as well, Dan. And the article went to say, placed in B&Bs, hotels and holiday parks, they are often moved between places multiple times across months. Cornwall Council said it was a heart-wrenching situation and had invested £300 million, which I know was given by the government to try and help to tackle the crisis. Emma, who did not want to use her real name, has been living in a holiday park with her 12-month-old son near Newquay since January. She said she felt like I've been abandoned and nothing has been explained to her. And, that's kind of like the end of the line there, isn't it? People really, really are, suffering. And you don't get to hear many stories like this. We know there's a housing crisis, but the people within it, they're just, not very happy. And the article went on to say, it could take years to sort. Last year, the council announced 300 million, as I said, of measures to tackle the housing crisis, including modular cabins. So this is what they're going to do with that 300 million rather, for the homeless people, paying for space on holiday parks and acquiring a portfolio of properties to provide temporary accommodation, which, it's not like a proper house really, is it? But they're doing what they can with the money that they've got. A total of 814 homes classified as affordable were built in Cornwall between 2020 and 2021, the second highest, I'm pleased to say, of any local authority in England. It might not be enough, and we've still got people on the housing, register, but, at least we're doing not badly as a county. I mean, thoughts, Dan?
2020 to 2021, that was peak of COVID, wasn't it? So
Certainly
there wasn't
was.
lots going on anyway. So I don't know if I'm too excited about the numbers, but a total of 814 homes classified as were built in Cornwall. Again, that's not a lot. It sounds like a lot, but it's, when you put it in perspective, it's not masses, is it? When you think of how many are needing homes, but again, there's big issues. Yeah, we just need to keep getting these property opportunities as well. Like, obviously, that's something we're very passionate about. We're trying to bring back old, dilapidated, derelict buildings, and we're trying to convert them into to beautiful spaces now for local people. But yeah, we've got a long way to go. My worry is who is in control of that 300 million as well. Kind of like, well, what's their knowledge or what's their background as well? Because it's like giving the government the money, but they're not businessmen, are they? The government, they're politicians. It's like we're giving politicians money to make business decisions, but they're not necessarily entrepreneurial or business. So yeah, that's the only bit worries me. It's just knowing maybe who is in charge and who's having to make these decisions, really. But yeah, it's very, very saddening to see those numbers yet again. And I can see the last line of your article there as well. The number of people on the council's housing waiting list has jumped. Yeah, so the waiting list has jumped since 2019. So in 2019, this article says it's 10,000, so just under 11,000, 10,947. But last month, and we're looking now, April 2022, it's now at 21,500. So that has drastically increased in the last 2 or 3 years. So,
frightening numbers.
Yeah, so we have got nearly 22,000 people on the housing waiting list. It is mad, and that has gone up drastically in the last 2 years since and throughout COVID. So very, very alarming numbers. But again, this is another reason why we're just trying to drum this into the Cornwall Property Podcast. It's what's keeping us going. It's what's motivating us, and it's trying to just make a little change and make a little difference where we possibly can. So please do obviously share this where you possibly can as well. It's an important message we need to get out there. So
get that number down.
Yes, yeah, definitely, for sure. But yeah, thanks, James. And again, anyone interested in reading these articles, again, please, you can access them on the show notes. So very, very quickly then, we just want to give this part of the show is where we give our picks of the week. I have chosen a commercial property that is currently on the market. James has got a residential. So yeah, I'll show you mine. So those who are listening or viewing, should I say, on the YouTube, on our YouTube channel, you can obviously see this in real time as we flick through the advert online on Rightmove. And those who are listening, obviously the links to the properties that we are talking about are on the show notes again. So I here have got a lovely opportunity. It is in the centre of Newquay. And the picture's quite small in this one. Actually, let me come back a little bit. So this is a commercial property. It's an empty commercial property, and it is in the centre of Newquay. And it's ripe. It's empty. It's derelict. You can see here there's a nice sized plot as well. So this needs to come back to the market it needs conversion. There's parking as well. It's central Newquay. It's up at the moment for £200,000 with a great opportunity to build and to convert this to residential. Whether or not, I'm just looking at the photos now, could you go up? It looks like there may be opportunity to go up. I know there's a lot of properties in Newquay that are building upwards. You can see the site floor plan here and the proposals. So they have put some proposals in there. And again, it's a good opportunity, I feel. So this is currently on with David Ball, but you can see they have built up on this as well. So I imagine they put a timber frame on the top floor, and it will be a 2-bedroom on top floor. And you've got another couple of flats on the ground floor. So yeah, looking good. I really like the look of that. Good opportunity. It's a nice square, open, empty space. So there's not too much to rip out. So that helps obviously the costs. But again, get around there, have a little look. But this is a perfect opportunity of an empty commercial space that we could bring some residential housing to.
Absolutely. Looks like it's got 2 big tick boxes for me. Full planning permission granted
already.
That will do you. And allocated parking for 2 vehicles, which is also really good. So yeah, nice find there. But it's just seeing, hearing our articles earlier on just about the housing crisis and seeing that empty space. Somebody get involved. Let's turn this around and reduce that number by a couple of properties.
Exactly that. And again, so you've got the main unit and then garage as well to convert. So yeah, great opportunity. I really quite like the opportunity here. I quite like it as well. So by all means, again, it's on with David Ball. Have a little gander if you're interested. James, what have you got for us?
Yep, I found us a very interesting, well, it's not really that interesting. It's a run-of-the-mill sort of terrace property in St Austell on Tregenisi Road. And this is superb opportunity, really. Textbook for renovation. 3 bedrooms, kitchen plus utility area. It's on mains gas, which is really good as well. Convenient location. It's got a good sized garden out the back. Modernisation required. By looking at the photos, nothing too crazy really structurally, but if you look at the size of the garden, that's really, really nice. And again, you just can clearly see this hasn't been lived in for I don't know how long, so I'm not going to make any lies up, but you can see it's not really had anybody living there for quite some time. And this would make a perfect family home. And I think the price offers in the region of £190,000. It's not bad at all, really. And I think you could make some money on this as well.
Definitely. So it's on with Jeffries in St Austell. Give them a shout if you're interested in having a little look at this one. What I'm just very interested in seeing is if you go on the maps, that garden is huge. It is absolutely huge. The first thing that I would want to do is go on maybe Street View or Google Earth, and I'd look and see, have any of the neighbouring buildings have they got access to the rear garden? Because I'm just thinking, is there an opportunity to build in the garden as well? But what I'd need to look, I can't see it from where I'm doing it live on the podcast, but what I would do here is I'd go onto Google Earth, I'd type in the postcode, I'd have a good look at the neighbouring gardens. Is there access? If there is access, have any of the neighbouring gardens got buildings in the garden at the end of the gardens? Because that could set a precedence to possibly getting some sort of planning permission for something. But yeah, great opportunity, like it.
Yeah, and just a little indicator I saw there as well. It was reduced on the 18th of May. So it's obviously come down a little bit. I can't quite see on here what it's come down from, but that says to me that, maybe they put it on a little bit too high, or maybe you might have some motivated sellers there where you can get a little bit of a deal. But there we have it. Textbook, terrace, 3-bedroom, family home, right for renovation, good sized garden, and there we go. Parking out the front.
And price is reduced, so it's a motivated seller.
Absolutely.
Spot on. Nice find. Brilliant. Well, that brings us to a close on this podcast for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please do share, and subscribe to the podcast as well. We really do appreciate that, and every kind of share and like and a bit of feedback that you can share is really, really helpful for us. It just keeps us going, and it's great to hear what you enjoy and what you'd like more of. Again, if you've got any questions, James, how can people get in touch?
Get onto the website, cornwallpropertypodcast.com, or they can go onto our Facebook page, which many of you do, and just reach out to us. Anything. Don't be afraid that you think the question's too vague or, it's too in-depth. We'll always come back to you. And, without your questions, we wouldn't have things to talk about. So please do get in contact. And thank you for everybody that has and does already.
Brilliant. Excellent stuff. Well, look forward to catching you next week on the Cornwall Property Podcast. That is a goodbye from me.
Goodbye from me also.